last thing in the set?
What?
Once we have Avodah Zarah,
Once we have Avodah Zarah, that's right. We're down for the count. All right. The first, what? Sech Avodah Zarah. At Daf Aleph Amud Aleph, Sech Avodah Zarah.
How come you started all such case?
Because the base in the very simple really in the first printer to print the Gemaras, the Italian guy Bromberg, he considered the Sharblat to be Daf Aleph, and therefore the title page, and therefore starts in base. Whereas normally in Jewish printing, the first page is the first page of text. So.
How please they told me in the elementary school because you can never finish all of it.
Right, that's what they told you. Right, that's what they told me too. Okay. Lifnei Edem Shanochrim. Before the Yom Tovim, the holidays of Goyim, Shlosh Yom for 3 days, Asumi Lasis Simarim, we are forbidden to do business and exchange with them. Milash Ilon, to lend them stuff, Lishol Mehem, and to borrow from them. Milavaisam, to lend them money, Vilavos Mehem, and to borrow from them money. Milafaram, from to repay them, Liparim, and to take repayment from them. All these things will be explained in Gemara. It says we can take back loans which we are holding outstanding against them, Neshu Meitzer, because he gets upset. It's not going to get the whole premise of Mishnah is that on his yontif he's going to go to his Avodah Zarah and say, "Thank you, Avodah Zarah, for delivering me from this Jew." Right? So this way he's going to be upset. He's going to go to Avodah Zarah and say, "Avodah Zarah, how come you didn't save me from this Jew, the usurer?" Right? So it says, so nevertheless, they said to him, even though now he's upset, so is going to be happy later on. Shmuel says it's forbidden for 3 days before and 3 days after their holiday. And we're going to discuss that later on. Of course, the Gemara couldn't know. Avada, now we would say Pshat is that for 3 days they buy stuff, and for 3 days afterwards they return stuff, right? But they didn't know this. God says the Gemara has the great anguish in order to figure out what the Pshat is. We know Pshat. Right, so this all comes in here. So it would be from December 22nd, the Mashal, till December 29th. Okay? Till December 28th. They say only before the holiday it's also, after the holiday mutter it's okay, you can immediately start dealing with it. All these things are going to be explained. This now the beginning of the Yerushalmi is not the Bavli at all. It's totally different. Then later on it gets similar. Learned all this out from here. Bring in the morning they bring in the morning they bring in the morning their karbanos. After 3 days, their maasros. In other words, so they start their preparations for their holiday 3 days beforehand. Mayor Simcha wants to say, although it's kind of wild and woolly, he wants to say that the halacha is by us, a korban requires 4 days of preparation. By them, they only require 3 days because the halacha is by goyim, mechusar, the ba'amum is okay. They're only not allowed to have a mechusar aver. So they're only not allowed to have a korban missing a limb. So therefore, they're more lenient in the amount of time they have to wait. But that really doesn't seem like pshat. Very good. The idea says, indicating if that's the case, I feel b'koluyos. We have to wait 3 days, even in goes. Yet the Tani we learned should be like Al Motani. Why did we learn? Only 1 day before the holiday is also in Chutz La'aretz. Maikadun Taka. What is the conclusion? Why is the Taka different in Chutz La'aretz? To Tam and Bodku, so the answer is they check the Chutz La'aretz. They make all preparations in 1 day. They read only 1 day. But here in Eretz Yisrael, even the Goyim are frumer. They checked and they found they take some 3 days to prepare for the Yontif, and therefore they forbade Elohim Shloshes Yomi, 3 days in advance. The Shai Teretz Yisrael brings down from the book Chashmon, from the Sefer Chashmonaim, which one of the Apocrypha, that the king Demetrius, a Greek king, gave Yonasan Kohen Gadol for the Chashmonaim 3 days before their holiday, and before the Jews' holiday, and 3 days after the Jews' holiday, that they should have a rest and relaxation, and vacation. So from this to the Shai Yisrael, we know that there was a minhag by the Goyim that they actually gave off 3 days before and 3 days after a holiday. So it was a goat. In fact, there's a proof from not Sefer Chashmonai. Says more, Ma'amakayim Rabbi Yossi now, obviously, Chutzayt, what?
We have to get that instituted.
You have to nowadays. Ma'amakayim Rabbi Yossi, Ahain Kroya. It's interesting, one can go into whole discourse, which I really didn't think about till this very moment, in that we also have 7-day holidays, but we give 7-day holidays. The first day is the Yontif, the last day is the Yontif, Chol Moed's in the middle, whereas they give 7-day holidays, weekday, and Yontif in the middle. Okay, it's an interesting distinction. My Kam Rabbi Yossi Hayin Kroya. What does Rabbi Yossi do with these psukim? The passage which says, bring in the morning your korbanos, 3 days your meisters. I mean, according to him, we don't learn out the 3 days from the pasuk. We learn out from our polling data. So therefore, we need the pasuk for it. So says I'll tell you. It says the Gemara, b'malchus Yeravam makos medaber. That pasuk is talking about the kingdom of Yeravam. So came and Shemolach Yeravam Yisrael. Once Yeravam, Jeroboam, became the king of the northern tribes, Hischem Afata, as he started seducing the Jews. He said to them, Bo v'navod Avodah Zarah. Let's go and serve Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah bat chonisi. Avodah Zarah, it's easygoing. Avodah Zarah, either they don't get one of two things. Either they don't give us the Avodah Zarah, doesn't give us levater in modern Hebrew. Means it foregoes. Either they don't make them impose such requirements upon us, or alternately that they don't punish us as much if we transgress the requirements. But it sounds like the former from the coming Gemara. So it says the Gemara, what is it? That's not what it says. That's not what it says. Naleb Yehuda, the northern kingdom people said, let's go up against Yehuda, v'nakitzena, and we'll cut it down, v'navkiena elena, and we'll bring it close to us, v'amlich melech b'silchan, we'll make a king within Yehuda, is one of the Haftarahs, I forget which one, as Ben Toval. We're going to make a king in Yehuda, the northern kingdom said, Ben Toval. And Amr Rabbi Abba said, Chazan v'chol mikro, we went through all of Tanakh, we never found a place which is called Taval. Now, I guess they assume Ben Taval means a person who came from the town of Taval, right? So they never found such a place. So actually they said, Elisha said, Toivaim Oivdov. Ben Taval means Avodah Zarah. And it's saying that we're going to the way we're going to conquer the southern kingdom is by presenting them with an alternate king to God. Ben Taval. Ben Taval is Avodah Zarah, which is good to its adherents. In other words, God, our HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's pretty rough with his adherents. But Ben Taval, he's an easygoing kind of Avodah Zarah. That's going to attract the southern kingdom to us. So it says the Gemara, the Torah says, examples now we're giving. The Torah says, make a selection. If you want a kohen, you have to make a careful selection among all the tribes of Israel. And you have to find a proper fellow. By Avodah Zarah it says fakir. Avodah Zarah vayas kohanim miktzosaam. They made the priests from the ends, from the dregs of the nation. As Rabbi Law explained, Rabbi Law explained minakotzim shebam, from the thorns of the nation, from the refuse of the nation. So first of all, Avodah Zarah is lenient in who it takes to be its priest. Furthermore, the Torah says, do not leave the fat of your korbanos till morning. Avodah Zarah says, bring stuff the next day. Now, I'm not sure exactly that pasuk fits into what we're trying to connote here, but the idea, what? No, I'm saying about Lina. Because this time, I think, before they sacrifice the korban. In other words, you can leave the korban over to morning before you sacrifice it. But we're Lina by us means after you sacrifice the korban, not to leave over the flesh till morning. So I'm not sure exactly how we derive the parallel. Anyway, be that as it may, the Torah says, you can eat that day and the next day. Again, using that pasuk for after the korban sacrifice, you get 3 days to eat. The Torah says, you should not bring with chometz the blood of my sacrifices. Avodah Zarah says, v'kater michometz toida, sacrifice from leaven your toda to Hashem. Daimi to the Avodah Zarah. Now, a couple of interesting things the Meshech Chochmah says. First of all, Meshech Chochmah says we see here that chometz is also to Jews, and it must also be also to Goyim, because they're trying to say something which only Ovdei Avodah Zarah do. So it must be that Ben Noach is not allowed to bring chometz, just like a Jew is not allowed to bring chometz. Who brings chometz? Ovdei Avodah Zarah. So from this he wants to derive that when Am Yisrael left Mitzrayim and they were given the mitzvah not to eat chometz, not in korbanos, not Pesach right now, but same idea, not the chometz, it obviously was a form of separation from Avodah Zarah, because somehow Avodah Zarah stressed giving chometz, and Am Yisrael and even Bnei Noach are not supposed to bring chometz. And it says in the same pasuk, Ki kol se'or v'chol devar shelo saktir menu rishel Hashem. We're not supposed to bring chometz or se'or. And the Meshech Chochmah, sour or honey, right? Sourdough or honey. So Meshech Chochmah goes back by Cain. It says by Cain brought, what did he bring to the korban? I forget what he brought, but he brought some fruit. He brought fruit, vegetables, whatever it's fruit or vegetables. So that falls on the rubric of Kol Sarvachalo the Vashlo Saktir Menel Yishal Hashem. So that was, perhaps that it became usher even for Goyim because Cain did it and that was the wrong thing to do, or vice versa. That could have been Cain's problem that Cain brought that which he wasn't supposed to bring. Anyway, be that as it may, continuing further. HaTorah, the Torah says, "Ki tador neder Hashem." You make a neder to God. If you make a pledge of a korban lo sachel, you shall not tarry to repay it. Avodah Zarah says, the kirun nedavos hashmiu. The main thing is to call out and let people know that you made a pledge. But when you have to redeem it, that's at your own discretion. You don't have to take your time. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yudan avoid Rabbi Messania. Rabbi Yudan, the father of Rabbi Messania, said, Lo ba kosov, the following pasuk only comes Elhaskir Gnoyan Sheyisol, to mention the that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to mispronounce. What? Ignominy. Is that the proper noun? The ignominy of the Jewish people. Good. Okay, that's a big word. Yom Malkeinu Heichelu. The day our kings Heichelu either means they became defiled or became sick. Sorim. I'm sorry. Yom Malkeinu, the day of our king Heichelu Sorim. The officers either became sick or something else they became defiled. Chamas miyayin, anger from wine. Mashach yodasotzim, he cast his hand with the scoffers. Okay, now we're going to explain this pasuk. Yom Shemach Yeravam Yisrael, the day that Yeravam became the king over Israel. All the Jews came to him towards evening. Amrulei, so they said to him, now that you're the king, kum avodah zarah, get up and worship avodah zarah. They obviously went to avodah zarah. They were dying to worship avodah zarah. Okay? Amrulei said no. After Ramsho, it's all the way towards evening. Ishtei below Ishtei, I drank, I didn't drink, I'm not, I'm partially drunk. I don't want to take chances and worshiping over the Zarah. Now, it's not a serious thing. Kola mashasu. And I know that all the rest of you drank. Eli matun bon, if you want to really worship over the Zarah, azum, go home, vatsum tzarfa, and come back tomorrow morning, and then we'll really get into it. Although, see, is that what it says? Kikarbo ketanu libam ba'arbam, kola laila yoshan ofeim. Because their inside was like kirbo ketanu libam. The inside was like an oven. Their heart, libam ba'arbam, the heart was ensnared. Kola laila yoshan ofeim, their entire night, their nature was sleeping. Says Markal laila lo yoshan ofeim. What it means is, the entire night, their nature did not sleep. Ofeim is their custom or their nature. So it's really supposed to be read as a rhetorical question. Kol laila yashana ofeim. What do you think? They slept all night? They slept from their custom, meaning all night. Yeravim, by delaying them, was just building up the anticipation and excitement that tomorrow we're going to worship Avodah Zarah. He intended to do it. It was part of his master plan to build up the tension and excitement. Okay? Says the Biker who boer ke'esh la'ava. In the morning, as a result of their not having slept easily, so the morning the desire to worship by the Zarah was burning within them. B'tzad for us in the morning they came to him. Amralon, he said to them, Yerushalmi said to the people, Kido, now I know that you want to worship Avodah Zarah. I'm worried about the Sanhedrin, your Sanhedrin, that they shouldn't kill me. Amrulay, so they said to the people, the tribes of Israel, don't worry, alone. If the Sanhedrin protests, we'll kill the Sanhedrin. Kodel, see, that's how it says, Kulam yichamu ketanur, they were all hot like an oven, and they were ready to eat up their judges. Rabbi Levi Amar haragu, they killed them actually. Hechmat Tamar, like it says elsewhere, came motzei chalo, the people, the person is found a casualty. So here too it says, Hechelu sarim, the Sanhedrin was actually killed. They were become chalalim. Rabbi Lo Amar they became diminished from their greatness. And Chulin actually.
Rabbi Lo Amar? How does that?
Welcome to Yerushalmi. Rabbi, it's his name. Lo is his name. Like Elo, in the Bible he's called Rabbi Elo. Okay, but he's called Rabbi Lo. Yeah. This caused great confusion to many people who learn Yerushalmi. Okay, they think that actually means no. Okay, says Yom, so we learned that it was like an act of defilement. Yom Malkeinu, the day he became king, Hechelu Sorim. Then the masters became defiled, remember Sanhedrin, Chamas Miyain, anger from wine. Yom Shtasu Bo Sorim Chulin, the day at which the masters became defiled, Mika Ram Lohem, what causes Chamas Miyain, anger from wine, Shayulu Utim, but not that the Am Yisrael was pursuing wine. That was true, but it's because the Sanhedrin, Shayulu Utim Achar Yayin, the Sanhedrin, those guys were also after wine. Now that's not the way the Pnei Moshe learns it. Pnei Moshe learns it still going, I think, on Am Yisrael. But that's what I would learn. That means that the Sanhedrin at the time were also not such outstanding individuals. Okay? This continues with the pasuk. He pulled his hand with these scoffers. Fascinating case. When Yerushalmi saw somebody who was a kosher guy, he got very upset. He couldn't bear the thought of people not being over the Avodah Zarah. He wanted everybody on the boat with him, right? So he says, what did he do? Have a mesiv gabe train litzoni. He would put by this fellow two scoffers, right? The lates in the Gemara means not a clown, but two scoffers. They would say to him, they would say to this guy, so this is actually this, you've heard of shiur v'chokim, right? This is richu karovim. I wonder if opening the window will do anything. It's supposed to be central learning. Except that the base measures is not working. Okay. This is Richu Krovim. So they sat next to one on each side. And they would say, Ezu Dor Chavim Kodor. So what was the most precious of all generations? Now, truth is, had they learned the pre-Perek Chelek, right, the last Sanhedrin, they would have known there wasn't Dora Midbar. But these guys were not so knowledgeable. Their knee-jerk answer was Dora Midbar, right, the generation of the Midbar. V'iner Amilei. So the scoffers would say, "Nu v'lo avdu akum." What was their whole thing? They worshipped Avodah Zarah. Says Marvua Marlon. So the Kosh guy would say, "Begin the Chavim lo yisachu." No, that wasn't their accomplishment. It's because they were beloved, so they weren't punished. V'inu Amilei. So they would say to him, "Listen." Here it says Chashi, be quiet, or the Kikal on the bottom says Chamei the Malka. See that the king, boy Meba King, our king wants to put us in that situation, demonstrate our chavivus as well. And that's why the king made Yeravam made 2 golden calves, one in Beit El and one in Dan, right? Below, not only that, Inun Avdin Chad, in the Dora Midbar they only made 1, Inun the Dain of the train, and Yeravam is going to make 2, and that's going to bring a test of whether Am Yisrael has the same chavivus to our generation as he did to that, and obviously the assumption was that he does. But he put one in Beitel and one he put into Don. Why did he decide to do this? Another version of the story, actually, Agasus Rucho Shel Yeravam, he echlitoso. The holiness of Yeravam is what caused him to do this. Amr Yaakov and Motzei Shmita Molach Yeravam Yisrael. Sharat Yisrael says actually it was a year earlier than that, but it's not material. By the time the Motzei Shemitah came around, Yeravam was already king over Israel. Although that which it says, Mikate Sheva Shonim B'moed Shnasa Shemitah B'chag Sukkos. At the end of 7 years, at the end of the Shemitah year, when Sukkot comes, which is next Sukkot, right, according to our present calendar, so then, when all of Am Yisrael comes to greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the place that she chooses, you should read the entire Torah, which you mean is Devarim, Sefer Devarim, Mishnah Torah, should be read opposite of Am Yisrael. What event was that called? In their ears? Hakel, right? That was called Hakel, right? So Yeravam said, "Adam Yisboy Mikre." I'm going to be called on, or I want to be called upon to lane. I guess it was a kibbutz at that time. They used to call to lane. Ana Miskore Misboy Mikre. I'm going to be called. I'm going to be asked to lane. Kaim Ana. If I get it first, they'll say Malkodas or Kodam. People say, "Oh, the king of the place, he got it first," because he's going to supersede Rechavam, right? Because Rechavam going second would mean that he's superior to Rechavam. On the other hand, Vin Mikre Tinyonin, if they call me to reach the second after Rechavam, Gnayuli, it's degrading to me. Viloni if they don't call me at all, which is even worse, Bizayin Huli. It's the absolute ultimate embarrassment. So, now what's he going to do? We'll see in a moment. But it's interesting in Machlokas Bavli Yerushalmi, which Maraponi points out, L'shitosa. The Bavli holds that that discussion, the Yeravam's quandary had to do with coming to Beis Hamikdash and not being able to sit while Rechavam would sit, because Rechavam was from Malchei Beis David, and Malchei Beis David were allowed to sit in Nazorah. But the interesting thing is that the Yerushalmi is L'shitosa. The Yerushalmi holds in a couple of places that nobody's allowed to sit in Nazorah. even Malchus Beis David, even in the house of David. They have to stand. They can lean a little bit, but they have to stand. So that's the case. Yerushalmi can learn the Machlokas discuss whether he's going to come there and have to stand while the king sits, because the king would have to stand as well. That's the Yerushalmi sets it up as this issue over here, which is a different issue altogether. Well, not altogether, but the issue of who's going to read, not who's going to stand, not going to stand, because the Yerushalmi, everybody's got to stand. So says Mar, in Marpinu, if I let them go to Sholayim, right, my nation, Azun Salkin, they're going to go up, Inun Shavkin Yossi, and they're going to leave me, right? They're going to go to Rechavam instead. Although, see the which it says, if this nation goes back to do Karbanas to Hashem in Jerusalem, Yashuv Le'vamazel Odoneim, to slay the heart of this nation will return to their master, El Rechavam, to Rechavam, and we don't like that. So what do you do? Also, Shnei Egrizov, he made 2 golden calves. The Kosav Alipon, and he wrote on their heart the following cryptic message: Varagucha, and it will kill you. So Omar, he said, Kol Melch Yekum Misakabon. Any king who rises will see this inscription on the base of the, not on the base, but on the heart of the Avodah Zarah. Now,
No, it's got to be low.
what?
It's got to be sitting.
No, because the Avodah Zarah was raised up. So on cap, I assume on a pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, all the pictures I've ever seen of it are always on a pedestal.
That's what you're going to need.
What?
10 Commandments.
Yeah, Ten Commandments wasn't the golden calf up on a pedestal also? Yeah, okay, so there you have it. I know, just kidding.
But the question is, he's saying, why did he, I'm trying to figure out why he wanted to do it on his heart, because he wanted only one particular person to see it.
No, it's good. No. That could be, that's what I thought too, but you're going to see why. It's going to say. But in the meantime, so the thing is like this. The Pnei Moshe seems to say, and I have a new sefer, not new sefer, I have a sefer sometimes called Yeretz HaTzvi. They want to say that he wrote this as a justification, with the future generation going to come and see what kind of a jerk was Yerovam that he went and made these Eglei Azov, right? I mean, what is he, a loser or a jerk? So it goes back to again the end of Sanhedrin, where it says Moshe Rabbeinu's grandson, he went to work as a priest of Avodah Zarah. Why did he go work as a priest of Avodah Zarah? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu's grandson? Money! You got to make a living somehow. So Yerovam was to say to Yerod Paragucham to tell people, why'd I do this? Because otherwise they would kill me. Hi, Tzorek V'Havor, okay, Kasher Lamaisa. But Lamaisa, that's why he did it. He didn't do it for the sake of Avodah Zarah. He knew it was nothing, but he was afraid people would kill him. But what?
Alright, so Yerovam did it to protect himself.
To protect himself historically, his legacy. Like Clinton, to protect his legacy. But the thing is, doesn't square so well with the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Chuna said, the person who links together is smart. Anybody who links, meaning that the next king is going to see this and say, look, Yerovam felt he had to do this because they're going to kill him, otherwise they'll kill him. I better do the same thing so they're not going to kill me. So Yerovam was planting the suggestion in the minds of future kings to continue his policy. Then he was saying to the other kings, Gedenkstu, you should remember, if you don't do the same thing I did, Varagucha, they're going to kill you. Okay? Now, the people who saw this would not realize that, because people think, why write Varagucha there? It's a sign that if you don't worship the Avodah Zarah, you're going to get killed. So Chiv Misa, not to worship the Avodah Zarah. But he had another meaning as well, which the king should be realized that they better follow his policy. Okay? Rabbi Chuna said, this we said, V'sachatos seitim. V'shachatos seitim mamiku. Their sharp tongue like their forked tongue, made them devious. Seitim means deviate, hamiku to very deep extents. Shehemik berasha, he became very much mired deeply in his evil. Amri said, call them a parsim, anybody who lets people know what my plans are on a katule, I'm going to kill him. Rabbi Ivan and Tzirava. Rabbi Ivan Bakar, Rabbi Ivan said, Av Shabbos Yom Tovim Motir Shabbos Mirava Milibo. Mirava made up holidays. Though the Chsiv. Can I say something nasty now? What if I say something nasty? Like, I'm not going to say that. Like Yom HaShoah. That's what I was going to say. Okay. So they made up a holiday, right? Make up a holiday. So he made, what? What?
So did Rabbeinu Tam.
No, he didn't make a holiday.
He instituted a fast day.
No, that's not, it wasn't the Deiros though. It wasn't the Deiros. There's a difference. Now, to make something for personal, that's different than making something hard and fast rule.
You do for himself.
I don't know which holiday, which fast they were something.
No, the individual communities are allowed to do that.
Individual community is allowed to do that, yeah. That's why the Yotesis Yontif, a famous story, the Yotesis Yontif made two things, because he was thrown in prison once because his misnagdim was redeemed. So he made for all Deiros after him, for all his progeny, a fast day and a feast day. Guess which one they keep to this very day? Yeah. No. Okay. The strike one. Anyway, so they asked the Rav Mechag v'chodesh Shmi v'chamisha sayim v'chodesh. He made a yontif on the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month. What's the 8th month?
After Tishrei.
Cheshvan. So instead of Sukkot, on Tetzvav Tishrei, he made a yontif Shmukas. I don't know. On Tetzvav Cheshvan, right? Which means like the holiday which is in Yehuda. Then he would go up on his altar. This he did in Beitel Lizbach to sacrifice B'chodesh Asher Bada Milibo on this month which he made up on his own. Milvad Ksiv. It says also milvad. Milibo is the Cree, right? He made up from his heart. But the ksiv, the way it's written in the pasuk, is milvad. K'madaton milvad Shabbos Hashem, like we have pasuk in Torah. Besides the Shabbos of Kodesh Baruch, we have Yom Tovim. So to besides, I guess Yerushalmi moved Shabbos to Sunday or something like that. So too, we moved this Yontif around. Tani. Okay, getting back. That's the end of Yerushalmi for now. Now we get back to the Masechta Avodah Zarah. Tani, we learned Avar v'nosa nimo. What did B'diavad who transgressed, and he did business with the guy before his yontif. So it says muter, it's permissible. Rabbi Yaakov Barachah B'Shem Rabbi Yossi Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Va'afilu b'yom edo, even do business with him on his yontif itself." But the evidence okay. In other words, the Chavchil is supposed to refrain from it, but the evidence okay. The Bavli actually argues on that. The Bavli holds that on Yom Edo is also even b'diavad, meaning you can't do any business with the guy on his holiday. Okay?
So what does that mean practically? What they're saying your mutter is that what is Bavli saying?
It's arguing.
Should happen.
What?
But what is Bavli
Stay home?
No. But this is already punished.
What?
In other words, is more punishment. Is it you're over alive and they're saying you're not over alive?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what the punishment is. I don't know what the punishment is. Probably based on would take away your property, like Hefker based on Hefker, they punish you in some way. It's a good question. I didn't even think of that. So it says more, Tani Kane, we learned the prices like this. When do you refrain from doing business with him by a nocher who's not your ongoing customer? Literally, you don't recognize him. I'm not going to make him nocher who you recognize. Literally, that's a little translation, but here it means your ongoing customer. Mutter, you're allowed to business with him, even during those 3 days, even on Yom Eidah, why? Because it's like you're flattering him, meaning that you got to maintain a relationship with him, because otherwise he's going to go and work with the competition. So therefore, even on this Yom himself, you're allowed to do work with him. Okay, so that's one heter. Another heter is the heter we said before that b'diavad it might be okay, and the third heter is brought down the Marapani brings down the heter, which he says the Rambam seems not to hold us. But the Marapani brings down the heter that Bisman Zed Goyim and are really Oif the Avodah Zarah. So they don't usually go to church. Yeah, Tosis Bali brings that the down. Marapani brings down for Tosis in the Bali. But the thing is that things Rambam argues. The Rambam says Christians are Oif the Avodah Zarah. He says Sunday is their Yom Tov, and therefore you can't trade with them on Sunday or 3 days beforehand. Okay. Says Matani Nichlas Ir Mitzon Smechin. Say that you come to a city and then they're having a festival there, right? So money, you rejoice with them, they shall come out to them because it's only to maintain some sort of relationship with them for your own advantage. Chad Dukiner, a certain duke, let's call him, but it's not real, doesn't really mean that. It means an adversary of the king. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia. He gave honor to Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia. Chad Diska Mole Dinarim, a large wallet, whatever you call it, full of the dollars. Nasil Chaminon. So he took one of them. V'shalach and sent the rest back. Shalach B'Shem Lakish in the Bible says he didn't take any, but here it says he took one. Actually, I'm not sure what the Bible says. I forgot. Anyway, Shalach B'Shem Lakish. He asked B'Shem Lakish what he should do about the money. Because obviously money was given him, he held as a form of Avodah Zarah. So it says, Amr, so Shmuel said, take whatever benefit you might have had from the money and throw it into the Dead Sea, which is standard thing of doing with so it's also but you don't know what it is in order to eradicate it. Ha'arei b'makiro. Oh, that's good. No, I didn't do a... It's alright.
I'm sorry, no, you didn't skip.
Yeah, Arei Makiro, yeah. Arei Makiro, Harei L'Shavar. This is talking about a person... So the question, Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia, he knew the guy who gave him the money, and it's b'diavad, it's after the fact. Reish Lakish Amar Yolich Hanoli Amamelch. So they say he's got to toss its equivalent, or its equivalent into the Dead Sea. This doesn't fit into what we said before. It was Makiro, where it was going to be an ongoing relationship, and also was b'diavad, because he already accepted, so why does he throw it in the sea? So it says, Ma'am said, no, Vani lo sha'al, didn't have a similar situation, Vani, lo sha'al, Gamliel Berebi, Gamliel Berebi is not the Tanner, but he's the Amora. He was the son of Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia, who was the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda and Nasi. So Rabbi Gamliel was one of the last generations of Israeli Amoraim, because Israeli Amoraim only went 3 generations, I think. It went from Rabbi Yochanan to, who was his Rabbi? To Rabbi Yochanan, to Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia, to Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia. And even those were sandwiched together, because it seems the time of the generation after Rabbi Yochanan, time Hillel Sheni, they already destroyed the chain. Anyway, I'm not sure. Be as a may Lamaisa. So Ravo said, "Ani lo shai Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yehuda Anosi Ma'u le'lech read. Can I go to the marketplace?" V'asarti and I forbid him. I forbade him to go. And here the Shai Yisrael throws in the Tanya. We learned Lakach Misham Ksus. If you took from the marketplace clothing, Tisaret, the clothing should be burnt. Behema, if you took an animal, tail care, it should lose its hoofs. Most, if you took money, you take its benefit to the Dead Sea. Okay, so that's the case. You're not allowed to go to the Yerid, and if you go there and you do business on Yom Edom or perhaps even 3 days before, you got to get rid of all the benefit you got. So that's why Aki says, what time did we learn? Hoching the reading, go to the marketplace, you buy it, even though it's their Yom Edom. So it says the Gemara, Reish Lakish Amar, Lo Sof Tavar Avodim Yisrael. Now, it's not even talking specifically about Avodim who already had gone through partial conversion process and had circumcision in form of Milah. Fil Nachrim, even Pashta Goyim, Mivnei Mekarvin Tachas Kan Rishina, because you bring them underneath the folds of the divine presence. So Lamaisa, the Gemara is saying that we have a kasha because the Brisa says that you can go, even though Ravo said you can't go. So it says, Mike, how do we reconcile these two things? So it says, Gamliel Adam, it should be Adam Gadol. And Gamliel was a great man. Because Ravo didn't want to let him to go, he made a fence against him, right? And similarly, it should be Af. Also, Rabbi and the Seal Adam Gadol. Yishlosh wanted to clarify the matter by making an example of him and having him toss away the coin he got from the Avodah Zarah. So here we see actually a common 20th century practice which one would not ascribe to the Talmud, which is public policy, right? Public policy being different also for Gedolei Torah. So it's for people who might be exemplars, even though something is technically mutter, they're now allowed to engage in that behavior. Okay? Says more further, Nicha, getting back to Mishnah, Nicha Masha, and say now, by the way, the Bobby says you have to throw the money into the Dead Sea in front of the guy. Yerushalmi doesn't mention that, the Ram Paskins like the Yerushalmi. Okay? Not that exciting, but that's what it is. Nicha Lisha Milashil, I understand you can't lend the Goyim Kalim before their Yontif. But Lishol, Mao, top of Chod Beis, why can't you borrow, right? Well, why that? I understand you can't lend, but why not borrow, right? So says the Gemara. I'm sorry. Now to lend, why can't you borrow from the Kalim? Nation Masil Shem says, well, no, you know why? Because the guy is going to take pride in his good name, that even those Jews come to do business with him. So even if it's not advantageous to go this specific transaction, nevertheless he's going to go and thank us Avodah Zarah that Jews are doing business with him. Okay? Similarly, Nicha Mi Milavo, so I didn't say now to loan the money. Milavo to borrow from the money, why not? Says because again, to give him a name is be a credible person. Says Nicha Mi Paron. I understand not allowed to pay them back. Why can't you demand of them payment? Right? Mine. So it says more again, Shalo Yomar Akum Shalo Sior. You can't do it because you can't say, we don't want them to say that a goy helped you to accomplish it. I'm not sure why not, but that's what you're not supposed to say. Okay? For public policy reasons, again, we don't, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Sorry. That's afraid. So therefore you can't pay him back even 3 days before, because then he's going to go and thank the Avodah Zarah for giving him the wherewithal to pay back the Jew which he owed money for. Okay? Now, like all rules in Masechtas Avodah Zarah, this rule has an exception to the rule. Basically, that's the theme of Masechtas Avodah Zarah. Judaism has many rules. Judaism is the religion which brought you loopholes. These loopholes apply to almost all the rules in Masechtas Avodah Zarah. Okay? So it says more over here. What's loophole in this case? Rabbi Lab said, if you're going to lose the loan by not collecting on Yontif, then mutter on their Yontif, right? Or 3 days before the Yontif, mutter allowed to collect it on their Yontif, or 3 days before it. It says here a tani came, but I think that's a mistake. Because later on we have a bright side. I think this is a mistake. Milvo Vedis was considered to be a milvo which might imminently get lost, and therefore allowed to demand it even in the context of their holiday season. So that's milve ve'edim, where all there are witnesses but no document, right? Ein milvo Vedis b'shtar, but if it's in a document, then you can wait, because then it's not considered to be a potentially lost loan. And I feel milva b'shtar. The truth is that that's not the case. Says my feel milva b'shtar, even if it's a loan which is based on a a document, ovedesi, right? It can be a lost loan. Because not at all times does the person, the debtor, have the wherewithal to pay back the money, right? So Micah doing so what's the story? Why do they come out? Milva vedes, what is considered to be a milva which is going to be lost, and therefore you can demand it even during the what? During the autumn, thank you. That's shalob and mashkon. If there's no mashkon, even if there is a star, if there's no collateral, it's a loan which might potentially get lost. But if there is a mashkon, then what difference is the loans aren't going to get lost? Because even if it does get lost, what are you going to do? Take the collateral. So therefore, that's not an issue, right? So it says Mara, milva vedes is with a mashkon, only without a mashkon, a milva vedes per mashkon. Ashkach Tani Akan Mason now Lamaisa, they found the Bryce who said no, milva vedes be'edim and milva vedes shtar. The Bryce argues, and this Bryce says that a milva vedes is only if it's done in front of witnesses, but it's not a milva vedes if it's done b'shtar. Okay, so therefore it can be a milva vedes whatever it's done in front of witnesses, but it's done b'shtar. That's not considered to be a milva vedes. Says one new thing. It is going Rabbi Yehuda and our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda said you cannot pay them back. Cannot pay them back within 3 days, but you can demand payment of them because that's going to make them upset, right? So therefore, you can go. They're going to go to their Avodah Zarah and not give thanks, but complain. So says the Gemara over there, Rabbi Yehuda, Isha lo soasu, that woman should not apply plaster to her face on Chol HaMoed. Nation evil because it makes her disgusting. Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Mana, Chadamars, one said. And Rabbanan argue, of course. Rabbanan say you can use plaster or Paris treatment, whatever treatment they call it, in the middle of Yontif as well. Okay? Rabbanan had a machlokas. Chadamar once said, Besichi matirosa b'moed. Their argument, Rabbanan and Rabbanan, is only about plaster which is going to come off the face while Yontif still ensues. And that nechlaku, that they were arguing. Whatever it is, it's something which is depilatory of some sort. Okay? But, but if the plaster is such that you leave it on the face until after Yontif is over, also for sure it's also because it's not Tzarech Yontif, right? It's not making her Yontif any more than so everybody agrees it's also, even in this case, Rabbana. Okay? Says Amar. The other one said when the first the wide lines. Besichi matirosal achar moed nechlaku. No, the machlokes is even by plaster, which she's only going to be able to take off after the other because she has a no from it now, knowing she's applied it and it's at work. Avo besichi matirosal besocha moed, but the plaster is going to come off face even during Yontif. Then mutter. Then in that case, everybody agree that it's mutter because of the simchas Yontif which is involved. We don't know who said what and what this machlokes Rabbi and Rabbanan and how to set up the machlokes Rabbi and Rabbanan until min madam Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Yosef Shem Yochanan Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Yosef both said named Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yehuda the Kedaita. Rabbi Yehuda follows his line of reasoning across the board. Come on, Rabbi Yehuda Mar Tamon Nibul Shah Nibul. So Rabbi Yehuda holds by Pesach. I don't know why I said Pesach. By Yontif. That Nibul Shah is Nibul, that even though it's only a temporary Nibul, because you're going to be okay in a day or two, nevertheless it's forbidden to do during Yontif. Kero Marach, so he says, but Tzoras Shah, Tzoras Shah, Tzora, that the temporary anguish is also considered to be anguish, and therefore would be forbidden to put on this sid, even if you're going to remove it on Yontif. In other words, we don't look at the long-term benefit or detriment, but rather we look at the short and immediate term. Okay, so heavy duamar besichu mutter besocham. So according to this conclusion, heavy duamar you would say besichu mutter betocham moed nechlaku. by seed, which are going to take off during Yontif, that's Malchus. It says it doesn't matter because right now it's a temporary evil. And Rabban knows that it's going to come up for Yontif, it's a tzarech Yontif. But the seed which only going to take off after Yontif is over, that's also for sure. Okay? Now, the fringe benefit of this discussion, which I didn't accentuate before, is that from this we know that Rabbi Chanina is the one who holds that Chanina is the one who holds that. Which one is it? He's the one who says that they argue by plaster which is going to take off during Yontif. Nevertheless, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's usher because it's causing temporary anguish. Just like you said over there, that in the case of what's the case? I forgot already. Sorry. In our case in our Mishnah, he's compared to Rabbi Yehuda in both. Our case in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says, the Machlokes Rabbanan is, what's the status of a case where he's going to be upset today, but later he's going to be okay about it, right? The guy is going to be upset that he had to pay back today, but tomorrow he's going to be happy that he had the wherewithal to pay back the Jew, right? So Rabbi Yehuda said, we look at today's tzar, and you can collect from him, you can do whatever you need to do to collect from him today, even though, because today he's in tzar. It's not because we go thank his God. Worth one old no, later on he'll be happy, so therefore you can't collect today, right? So that was, so that machlokas is what happens when, now it's tzar, but achar zman it's going to be a simcha. So he's going to learn by the case of putting on the plaster on Yontif, the machlokas is the same machlokas. What happens if it's tzar, if it's now an evil, but it's going to be later on a good thing, on Yontif itself? Whether the fact that it's tzar today, or evil today prevents it, or the fact that it's going to be positive view later on, that makes it legitimate even on Yontif itself. So that's the machlokas Rabbanan over there, just like the machlokas they have in our Mishnah. Okay? So that's going again. Let's see the inside. My third line down in the wide lines. Mana Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda's Kedaite. K'mor Rabbi Yehuda Mar Tamon Nivul Shas Nivul. It's like there he's machmir. See, there comes out to be a chumrah that you can't put on plaster in Yontif if you're going to take it off, because right now it's disgusting, right? Kenon Arachah Sotri says here Akula. Since right now the guy is going to be upset that he has to pay back Tzara, right? Happy to Amar so he must hold the Machlokas Besichu Mutter Besoch Amoy Nechlaku. Machlokas about the plaster they're going to take it off during Yontif. Besichu Mutter Achamoy, but the plaster they're going to take off after Yontif. Everybody agrees it's also right. His question is, what's the connection between Tsar Shah and later Simcha, or Nivul Shah and later Beauty? Okay, the same idea by both. Now, new case. Ubanim Yisrael, Jewish craftsmen. Shoisim Nochri, who are working with a goy, be'edon on their yontif b'toch beso, in the goy's house. Oh, no. In the goy's house, it's also. They can't work with the goy in his house. B'soch b'tein, in their own house, mutter. Now, this is the exact opposite, if you think about the halach of giving work to a goy for you to do over Shabbos. Okay? You're not allowed to give work for a goy to do your Shabbos if it's in your house. But in the goy's house, it's mutter, right? Here it's the opposite. Now do work for a goy on his yontif, if it's in his house. If it's in your house, it's mutter. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Rav Shimon loves Amir Bamedvar, when it's true, and there's a line missing, the Sharater so puts it in, Biki boilus, only if you're working on contract. Ava Besach Yom Aser. If you're working as a per diem worker, and he pays you for working on his yontif, so then you're working for him on his yontif, that's also, because that's going to make him happy, that the Jew's working for him on his yontif, and he's aware of that. If it's on contract, it's not. He doesn't know if you're working or not. But if he's paying you for that day, so it makes him happy, right? Also, by metaphor, it's true, but something which is not going to be ever connected to the ground. Something which is going to be connected to the ground, even though it's not Pashup Pshat anymore. Also, it's forbidden. Why? Because then, when it's connected to the ground, everybody's going to see, oh, look at that beautiful spring. Who made the fountain? Who made that fountain? They're going to say, oh, Yaakov made that fountain for Christopher. Right? And they're going to find out that he made it on the Goyish holiday. So if it looks bad, it's a Maris Ayin issue, it's forbidden. Okay? So it says the Gemara, if however you're working in another city from the Goy, Benkach or Benkach Mutter. We don't assume such a linkage is going to make it, no matter why he can work even on his Yontif. Ma Benkach or Benkach Mutter. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Now Gemara is going to say it. I take that back. Ma Benkach or Benkach Mutter. Bein B'tolosh B'mechubar, whether it's always going to remain separate from the ground or eventually it's going to be connected to the ground. Bein B'sachar, Bein B'kibolos, whether he's doing it as a hired worker or as a contractor. Rabbi Law said, Bein B'tolosh B'mechubar, yes, can even be something which eventually connected to the ground, but Uvad B'kibolos, not as a per diem worker. Even in the Ira Acheres, it cannot be as a per diem worker, it's only got to be on a contract. Rashim Rabbi Yachos said, B'Shabbos uve'evel Avodah Zarah. But only see the areas we only discussed Avodah Zarah here. But by all these areas, how is like Rishim and Elazar, who distinguishes between that which is connected to the ground and that which is not connected to the ground. In our case, in other cases, it's different issues. Chevraya Amrei. Now going back to our Mishnah said, Rabbi Shmuel, for 3 days after Yom Tif, you can't deal with them either. So Chevraya Amrei time of the Rabbi Shmuel, the Chevra said, what to the show? Yishum Barya de Moadah, because of the feast of the holiday. What that means is just like we have an Isru Chag for 1 day, they had an Isru Chag for 3 days. Right? Like Demetrius the king gave back in the Sefer Chashmonai. So if it's therefore, even though it's not as Yontif, but it's already, it's his Isru Chag, never it's going to go thank his God. Amrei Barabba said no. He said a difference where it says, since he knows, this is a fascinating thing, we want to make his Yontif as rotten, stinking, miserable as possible. Right? So if he knows ahead of time that for the next 3 days we're not going to deal with him, he's going to be depressed on his Yontif. And that gives us special glee. Okay? So that's why we don't trade in the means of the Yontif, to diminish the Simcha on Yontif itself. Okay? Became a Chudash also L'chol Lisa of Lita Imo for the next 3 days, whom in my B'sichel said is going to have less of a Yontif. Says more Mamav Kabineh, what's the difference between the two approaches? Lim Korlo Dvarim Shem is time to sell him stuff which is not sustainable, meaning food or perishables. Al Das Chavrai, according to Chavrai, also because they're going to use the food to make his Isru Chag. Al Das Rabbi Bo, Mutzukon Rabbi Bo, Spiritual. Why? Because the thing which he's concerned of, which makes him the president of the holiday, is if Jews won't provide him with investment opportunities during the next 3 days. He's not concerned with Jews selling him perishables and not selling perishables. He's concerned with getting in on special stock trades and insider trading, right? So that therefore, selling them perishables, according to this, would not be an issue. It's selling significant, durable goods, which actually would be the issue, and that would be a nafkamina, which is a fascinating nafkamina. Okay? So, direction is coming that to Chavraya, also that to the Rabbi Bo Mutter. Rabbi Yudan said, Kaya Messiah Masha Amru Chavraya. The pasuk is like the Chevra said, that there's a concept of Isru Chag. Why? Because it says, Yom Esrim Chodesh, on the 24th day of the Chayonte, the Chodesh Shvi of Tishrei, Nesu B'nei Yisrael B'tzayim V'chi V'sakim B'adam Aleim. They gather with sackcloth and ashes in the whole business to make atonements for having intermarried. Why don't they make it on the 23rd day of Tishrei, which is the day after Sukkot? It must be Yishum Bayad Amad. It must be they're making Isru Chag. By the way, in the Bible, the Isru Chag appears in Masech the Sukkot and says, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, anybody makes an Isur Lachag, he connects to the Yonte, which are Chilan Shtia, it's very good. Right? It is special Kilu Yikriv Korban, I forget what it says there. But that's not the concept of a day of Isru Chag. The Bible, Yerushalmi is making much more of a thing out of it, okay? That's why they had to push off the fast for atonement from Isru Chag of Sukkot to the next day. Says, wait a minute, that's not Buchach. Ein Neymar Dehu Shab. So maybe you want to say that no, Maybe the day after Sukkot was Shabbos, which never happens, by the way, nowadays, which is important. Second day, our Simchas Torah, which is Yisroel Chag and Eretz Yisrael, can never come out on Shabbos. Did you ever notice that? Simchas Torah never comes out on Shabbos. You ever notice that?
I never paid close enough attention.
You know why it doesn't ever come out on Shabbos? Because then Yom Kippur would come out on a Sunday. And we don't allow Yom Kippur to come out on a Sunday or a Friday. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. You name it out of Shabbos, Leisat Yochel. You can't say that. If you reckon, you'll find Tzomah Rabbah B'chad B'Shubah. That Yom Kippur would come out on Sunday. So Mamabo, who cares? Leisat B'chunia Mekel Amandam Arbelei Minasrei. Wasn't Rabbi China Mekel to some of you to the people who made the Iber, Cheshman Iber in his place, that they could make an Iber, they didn't have to put into account Yom Kippur being on a Sunday. Now, Rabbi says is amazing word. This is a raya, I think, to almost to Rabbi Trursky. I forgot to tell this. Rabbi Trursky wanted to contend in an article he wrote once that at the time of Chazal, you were entitled to make each locality was entitled to make its own calendar, which is a shocking concept. But that's what it sounds like over here. Because it says Rabbi Chunya, to the people in his place, he didn't care if they made a Yom Kippur on a Sunday. Right? The Bible says it never came out from days of Ezra. They never made Elul Mubar. They never had to make Elul Limah because always it came out.
Until when was this?
Right? Until Hillel Hasheni's time he contends. Until they set the Luach in stone. So it sounds like this here, right? Because Moshe asking a kasha of Yechunya, right?
Certainly, it makes a lot of sense given the fluctuating nature of the calendar in general.
And the communication between the various different localities.
Right.
But it makes sense, but there are various kashas that I don't want to get into because it's already late. But the Maisa, then why did you need Yom Tov Sheni if each place could do it itself? Well, maybe it's all there. You have to get all sorts of things. The Maisa could just be Rabbi Chunim was making me that he said it was in Takana that it shouldn't come out on Sunday. All right, whatever. You can kvetch out of it. Said, I reckon all days, all calendar years backwards. I know I did this before it said calendar. But obviously that klolim, which they observed even in the time of the second base HaMikdash. Because otherwise I don't know how he retroactively figured out. And he reckoned, and he reckoned that year, in the Nehemiah's time, it didn't come out that Yisroel Chag was on Shabbos. So somehow he was able to reckon backwards. Amazing Gemara. Okay, let's just get to Amud Aleph. Elohein Eidem Shel Akum. These are the holidays of the Goyim, and the Gemara is going to explain all of them. Kalandis, Saturnalia, Kresteia, Yom Gidusha Shemlachim, the birthdays of kings, Yom Aleid, Yom Misan, the day in which the king was, Yom Gidusha is the coronation day. Yom Aleid is the day of birth, Yom Misan is the death day. Divrei Meir. Chachamim said it depends. Anytime they make a burning when he dies, like in India, they make a funeral pyre. There's Avodah Zarah issue. Shemus, if they don't burn, ain't Avodah Zarah, is no Avodah Zarah issue. Now here's the etymological Gemara, which is involved as well. Rabba Maridain with an ayin, Shmuel Maridain with an aleph. Mada Maridain with an ayin. It's based on Pasuk Veidaim Hema. These are their witnesses. They're witnesses of iniquity. Mada Maridain with an aleph. Kikarovi have done the day of the annihilation or desolation will come. So it's like a negative, derisive comment on their holidays. Similarly, we have other machlokes about how to spell things. Rab Ma'abri make a leap month to spell with an aleph, or leap year. Shmuel Ma'abri with an ayin. Mandamar Ma'abrin with an aleph. Mosim La'eva, we added a limb. Mandamar Ma'abri with an ayin. Kishum Mubar, like a pregnant woman. Rab Ma'yeosu, to derive pleasure from a candle, something that is Yeosu with an aleph. Shmar Yeosu with an ayin. Mandeosu with an aleph. Ach bezos neos lochem. The Shimon and Levi said to the people of Shem, with this we will acquiesce. We will find favor in our eyes. Ma'anamai also with an ayin, ladas la'us es yoif dovar. The time, to know the right time to I don't know what yoif dovar means, I forget. But anyway, it means know the right time, and here it means to derive the correct usage from something. Rabamar Kalandis. What was Kalandis? And this is the opposite of the way the Bavli learns the names, but it's the same idea as different names. Rabamar Kalandis, other Mishon Hiskino. It was made by the Mishon. Came in the Chama Lelia Arich, since he saw nights getting longer. Omar, he said oily. Now the Bible says he said oily because he was afraid the world was gradually being destroyed. But the Yerushalmi is much more practical. It says he wasn't afraid of the world being destroyed. He was afraid the snake about whom it says he's going to bite me. I'm going to crush his head, but he's going to bite me in the heel. Maybe it's going to be dark, and he's going to be able to come in the dark and bite me. Right? Not the world's going to collapse, but the snake is going to have success. For him, it says he's afraid the darkness will cause him to be bitten. Came the Chama Yoma Arich. Once he saw the days get longer again after December 25th, he noticed the days getting longer again. Amr said, Kalandis. Kalandis is Latin. Kalon Deo. Praiseworthy is the deity. Okay? Peace command Amr. This is going according to the whole Tishra Nivrola. Because it means he hadn't had enough time to see, the cycle of the seasons yet. Right? However, Bran command Amr Nisan Nivrola, Yada he knew what was going on. Okay? Amr Rabbi Yisrael Bun. Man Savar Rosh Hashanah Nivrola, who also was clear Rosh Hashanah, Rav. The time of Tkiyas of the Bei Rav, we learn in the order of the Tkiyas of Bei Rav, which is in our master to our very day. Zayom Tchilas Ma'asecha. This day is the beginning of your deeds. Zikaron Liyar Mishon, a commemoration, the first day of Chulei. Have a Rosh Hashanah Nivrola. For this, the world was created on Rosh Hashanah.